Could it be that a seemingly simple moment after a concert actually holds a truth that has long been overlooked, or even deliberately hidden from the public? And why did the name Park Seo Jun suddenly become part of a conversation that has led many to question the true nature of the relationship between Jungkook and Kim Taehyung? That night in Tokyo was not just about dazzling stage lights and the lingering euphoria of thousands of fans after a major BTS concert. There was something different in the air. Something that wasn't fully captured by professional cameras, but instead lived in fragments of conversation, fleeting expressions, and subtle interactions that most people failed to notice. And there, in a more private yet still watchful space, a conversation began to spark speculation that has now grown into a heated topic. When friends and industry colleagues gathered after the concert in Tokyo, the atmosphere at first felt relaxed. Laughter echoed, light conversations flowed, and everyone seemed to be enjoying the moment after a long stretch of hard work. But as often happens in circles filled with curiosity, a simple question began to emerge. A question that sounded casual, yet carried deeper implications. Just how close are Jungkook and Taehyung really? First, the question was asked jokingly. Some people approached them with smiles, teasing lightly. But what happened next subtly shifted the mood. Jungkook laughed, yet his laughter seemed slightly restrained. Taehyung, on the other hand, offered a smile that was difficult to read, an expression that left many wondering if there was something more behind it. This is where Park Seo Jun's name began to surface. As someone known to be close to Taehyung, his presence in that circle wasn't surprising. What was surprising, however, was how he reacted to the questions directed at Jungkook and Taehyung. Instead of avoiding the topic or changing the subject, Park Seo Jun responded in a way that felt ambiguous. Something that, to some, sounded like an unintentional reveal. He didn't say anything directly. There was no explicit statement. Yet in a world where every word, pause, and expression carries meaning, his reaction was seen as a clue. When someone asked again about Jungkook and Taehyung's closeness, Park Seo Jun simply gave a faint smile and said casually, "Some things are clearer when you see them for yourself, not just hear about them." It sounded like a simple sentence. But for those who were there, it felt like opening a door to something that had long existed only as speculation. Did that mean there was something the public had been missing all along? Or was this just an overinterpretation of an ordinary moment? These questions began to grow as people present that night tried to recall what they had seen. Jungkook and Taehyung being together was nothing new, but small details started to stand out. The way they communicated without words, how they seemed to understand each other through mere glances, and how they remained within the same orbit even while speaking with others. Some witnesses mentioned that when someone tried to separate them into different conversations, the two would unconsciously find their way back to the same space. As if there was an invisible pull, something keeping them connected even as situations shifted. Amid all this, Park Seo Jun once again became a focal point. He didn't speak much, but his reactions to Jungkook and Taehyung's interactions were described as too aware by some, as if he knew something others didn't. Was it all just coincidence? Or was there a dynamic only understood by those within their closest circle? The speculation intensified when fragments of that night began circulating on social media. There was no complete recording, no clear visual evidence. And perhaps that's exactly why imagination began to take over. Every small detail was analyzed, every word reinterpreted, every expression turned into a subject of endless discussion. Some fans believe this is simply the result of a deep and genuine friendship. In an industry filled with pressure, having someone who truly understands you is incredibly valuable. Jungkook and Taehyung have gone through so much together. Intense training, long journeys, and overwhelming expectations. It's only natural that their bond would grow stronger over time. Others, however, feel there may be something beyond friendship. They point to subtle details that may seem insignificant on their own, but together form a pattern that's hard to ignore. And in the middle of it all, Park Seo Jun's role becomes even more intriguing. He isn't a member of BTS, yet his closeness to Taehyung places him in a unique position, close enough to know, but distant enough not to be directly involved. When someone in such a position reacts in a way perceived as unusual, it's no surprise that people begin to question things. Did he really reveal the truth? Or is this all just an interpretation taken too far? What is certain is that that night in Tokyo left behind something that cannot easily be dismissed. Not because of any official statement or major confession, but because of small moments that felt too real to ignore. And perhaps that's where the fascination lies. In a world often shaped by carefully curated images and narratives, spontaneous moments like these feel more honest, more raw, and because of that, much harder to explain. As time passes, discussions about that night show no signs of fading. In fact, more people continue digging deeper, searching for details that might have been overlooked. Old interviews are rewatched, past interactions are re-examined, and every small piece becomes part of a larger puzzle. Yet beneath all the speculation and theories, one question remains. Are we truly seeing what happened, or simply seeing what we want to see? Jungkook and Taehyung themselves have not directly addressed the situation. They continue their activities as usual, appearing in public with the same professionalism as always. There has been no dramatic change, no clarification, and perhaps that is exactly why the mystery continues to live on. Meanwhile, Park Seo Jun has also made no further statements. He returned to his routine as if nothing had happened, but to many his silence feels louder than words. Is all of this merely coincidence amplified by curiosity? Or is there truly something hidden behind the spotlight? Perhaps the answer will never be completely clear. Or perhaps it has been right in front of us all along, we just haven't been ready to see it. And if there really is something that has been overlooked, one thing is certain. That night in Tokyo was not just the end of a concert. It was the beginning of a question that may continue to echo, not only among fans, but within anyone trying to understand what truly happened behind it all. Yet the deeper this story unfolds, the more it begins to blur the line between observation and assumption, between what was actually witnessed and what is now being reconstructed through fragments of memory, emotion, and expectation. Because what truly happened after that night in Tokyo, beyond the laughter, beyond the glances, beyond the words that seem to carry more meaning than intended, remains something that no single narrative can fully capture. As conversations about that evening continue to circulate, new details begin to surface, each one adding another layer to an already complex picture. Some claim that Jungkook appeared unusually quiet at certain moments, especially when the topic of his relationship with Taehyung was brought up again in a more direct tone. Others insist that Taehyung, while outwardly composed, showed subtle signs of discomfort, small pauses, a shift in posture, a glance that lingered just a second too long before turning away. But what do these details really mean? Are they genuine indicators of something deeper, or are they simply the natural reactions of two individuals constantly placed under a microscope, where even the most ordinary behavior is dissected and given extraordinary significance? It is important to recognize that in environments like these, where fame, pressure, and constant scrutiny intersect, every action can easily be misinterpreted. A laugh can be seen as forced, a silence can be read as tension, a glance can be turned into a narrative, and when emotions are already running high, fueled by curiosity and speculation, it becomes even harder to separate reality from perception. Still, what makes this particular moment stand out is not just the behavior of Jungkook and Taehyung, but the way others around them seem to react. Several individuals who were present that night reportedly exchanged knowing looks when the topic came up again, as if they were aware of something that was not being openly discussed. There was no confirmation, no direct acknowledgement, but there was a shared understanding that seemed to exist beneath the surface. And then there was Park Seo Jun. His presence, once again, becomes impossible to ignore in the evolving narrative. Those who observed him closely that night described a kind of quiet attentiveness, as if he was carefully choosing when to engage and when to remain silent. When laughter erupted, he smiled. When questions were asked, he listened. But when the focus shifted toward Jungkook and Taehyung, his reactions became more measured, more deliberate. One particular moment continues to be revisited in discussions. It was said that when someone jokingly suggested that Jungkook and Taehyung couldn't stay apart even if they tried, Park Seo Jun briefly looked at Taehyung before lowering his gaze, a faint smile crossing his face. Not one of amusement, but something more subtle, something that some have interpreted as acknowledgement. Was it simply a coincidence? Or was it a reaction shaped by knowledge that others did not possess? The ambiguity of that moment is what keeps the conversation alive. Because in the absence of clear answers, people begin to fill the gaps themselves. They connect dots that may or may not be related. They build narratives from incomplete information. And over time, those narratives start to feel real, even if they are rooted more in interpretation than in fact. What complicates matters further is the history between Jungkook and Taehyung themselves. Their journey together has been long, filled with moments of undeniable closeness, as well as periods where fans speculated about distance or tension. They have grown side by side, evolving not only as artists, but as individuals navigating an industry that demands both vulnerability and control. In that context, any display of connection, no matter how small, can carry amplified meaning. A shared glance becomes a statement, a moment of silence becomes a question, and a simple interaction becomes a potential revelation. But perhaps the most striking aspect of this entire situation is not what was seen, but what was not said. Despite the growing speculation, neither Jungkook nor Taehyung has addressed the rumors directly. There have been no clarifications, no denials, no attempts to reshape the narrative. They continue to move forward, focusing on their work, their performances, and their public appearances with the same level of professionalism that has defined their careers. This silence, however, has not quieted the conversation. If anything, it has intensified it. Because in the world of public figures, silence is rarely interpreted as neutrality. It becomes a space where meaning is projected, where absence of words is filled with assumptions. Some see it as a deliberate choice, to maintain privacy, to avoid unnecessary controversy, to protect something personal from becoming public spectacle. Others see it as an implicit confirmation, a refusal to deny what might be true. And so the question lingers, growing louder with each passing day. What is the truth behind what was witnessed that night? Is it possible that what people are seeing is simply a reflection of their own expectations, shaped by years of following, supporting, and emotionally investing in these figures? Or is there действительно something more? Something subtle, something unspoken, something that reveals itself only in moments where the facade of performance fades away. Even Park Seo Joon's silence continues to be dissected. Interviews unrelated to the incident are revisited, with viewers searching for any hint, any expression, any shift in tone that might provide additional context. But nothing concrete emerges. Only more questions, more interpretations, more speculation. And perhaps that is the nature of stories like this. They exist in the space between fact and feeling, between what is known and what is believed. They are shaped not only by events, but by the people who witness them, interpret them, and share them. Over time, they take on a life of their own, evolving with each retelling, each new perspective, each added detail. Yet beneath all of it, there remains a simple, almost overlooked reality. Jungkook and Taehyung are human beings, navigating relationships, emotions, and experiences in a world that rarely allows them to do so privately. Every interaction is watched. Every moment is analyzed. Every silence is questioned. And maybe, just maybe, that is the part of the story that matters most. Because whether there is a hidden truth or not, whether Park Seo Joon's reaction meant something significant or nothing at all, the intensity of the public response reveals something deeper about the nature of attention, curiosity, and the desire to understand what lies beyond what is visible. The night in Tokyo may have ended. The lights may have dimmed. The conversations may have faded into memory. But the questions it sparked continue to echo, growing louder not because of what was proven, but because of what remains uncertain. And as the echoes of that night refuse to fade, the narrative begins to stretch far beyond the walls of that private gathering in Tokyo, evolving into something almost myth-like, retold, reinterpreted, and reshaped with every passing day. What once lived as a fleeting moment has now transformed into a lingering question that refuses to settle. A question that seems to grow heavier the more people attempt to answer it. Because here is where it becomes even more unsettling. What if the truth was never meant to be spoken out loud? What if everything that needed to be understood had already been shown, not through statements or confirmations, but through presence, through instinct, through the kind of unfiltered reactions that cannot be rehearsed. Those who were there continue to recall not just what was said, but what was felt. The atmosphere they describe shifted in ways that are difficult to explain using simple words. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, and yet it carried a weight that lingered long after the conversation had moved on. There was a moment, brief, almost invisible, where everything seemed to pause, as if everyone present had become aware of something they could not quite articulate. And in that pause, eyes reportedly turned, almost instinctively, toward Jungkook and Taehyung. Not because they were doing anything unusual, not because there was a grand gesture or a revealing statement, but because of something quieter, something more subtle, the way they existed in the same space without needing to draw attention to it. The way their presence seemed to align without effort, without intention, without performance. It is in moments like these that interpretation begins to take on a life of its own, because when something feels real but remains undefined, people instinctively try to define it themselves. Some have since described a particular exchange that continues to raise eyebrows. It was subtle, so subtle that many initially overlooked it. Someone made an offhand comment about how certain bonds don't need labels to be understood. It was meant to be philosophical, almost abstract. But the timing of it, paired with the direction of the speaker's gaze, caused a ripple of quiet reactions across the room. Jungkook reportedly lowered his head slightly, his expression unreadable. Taehyung, on the other hand, did not respond immediately. Instead, he held still for a brief moment before letting out a soft laugh, one that, according to those who noticed, didn't quite match the tone of the conversation. And then, almost as if